he's like what, 28, 29, Steph now? He's like somewhere there.
33.
Is he? He's 33.
Steph is like 33.
Steph Curry is 33 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the baby face, man.
I just don't think he has it anymore.
Melo's the role he didn't want in Oklahoma City.
Carmelo Anthony drills it straight away.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Control the Narrative, a podcast where we control the narrative that the media creates. If you're new around here, subscribe to catch our weekly podcast. And if you're a returner, a subscriber, or better yet, a Control the Narrative member, we appreciate you as always. Along with this intro, I'm just going to throw in here, moving forward, hit the like button. Apparently that does shit with the algorithm, and it puts us on more people's feeds, and the more people's feeds we can be on, the more we can have this Melo militia, this Melo army, whatever you want to call it, behind our back, fighting these narratives. So hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you are not subscribed already. Cool. A little bit of a different episode. I mean, obviously we're doing like the week by week. Should Melo go to this team? Should Melo go to this team? We did Brooklyn Nets last week. We did the Lakers the week before, and we've just been looking at different possibilities. We did the Blazers. This week is a team that we've had a lot of comments on Instagram and people asking me about, Golden State Warriors. I think it's a really intriguing team for obviously many different reasons, and we're going to get into that tonight with our two guests, Velo and Manny. My guys, how you guys doing?
What's up, Steve? Thanks for having us.
Yo,
Of course.
what's going on? It's good to be back as always, man.
A couple returning visitors right here, guests right here. Velo and I were just talking that our shit always goes really, really long. And Manny, whenever he gets on, he always makes it work, whether he's coming off a bus, whether he's at a restaurant, or whatever, he always makes it work. So I appreciate both of you guys for doing that shit.
Anytime, bro.
Absolutely.
Yo, let's get into this. Golden State Warriors. Velo, you said I threw you guys a curveball, and I definitely think it was a curveball. Real quick, we were going to talk about Philly and how Melo fit with the Sixers. That was going to be our topic tonight. And Velo was like, yo, but Daryl Morey. And I was like, holy shit, like, you're right. That completely slipped my mind. And Philly makes sense for a lot of different reasons. I'll give each of you guys 1 minute to just touch on Philly right now. For me personally, it makes sense location-wise. They have a chance to win. The roster could use a guy like Melo. But at the end of the day, if Daryl Morey is the president or the GM or whatever he is in Philly, in my opinion, there's 0% chance that Melo will go there, which is why we're kind of skipping this outside of this 1 minute. So, Velo, give us 1 minute of Melo to Philly.
Yeah, I'm glad we're touching this for a minute, because I think I went maybe like 2-3 weeks ago. I went on this kind of like long rant on my Twitter how, like, why are we not talking about Philly? You know, Philly's like a perfect squad. Yep. It doesn't matter if he's a starter, if he's a sixth man. You just seem to have all the pieces. And I thought it kind of fit the narrative of, like, they didn't make it this far. They, in a way, they kind of like underachieved. So Melo can be the guy that's going to like push them over the top and kind of get them there, which would be kind of like, you know, really, really fun for us. But then as I was writing, you know, my fourth tweet, I was like, oh, shit, Daryl Morey is there. And I was like, yeah, this is just not going to work. Because if half of the things is true that we read about it, you know, it's, you know, your services are no longer needed. Still resonates in Melo's head. So I just, you know, I think it's a great fit basketball-wise. I think they're a defensive, especially if they keep Ben Simmons, you know. It fits in perfectly as that kind of scoring punch. Just focus on what you do best. Go out there, give us 25, 30 minutes and just score in bunches. And it gives them another closer, which we see that they really needed in these playoffs. So I'm over a minute, so I'll kind of like leave it at that.
All right, Manny, what do you think? Give us like 60 seconds of what do you think of the possibility of Melo going to Philly? Well, obviously Morey's there, but just what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, with the whole situation with Morey being there, it's no way possible that it would happen. The only way that it would be able to happen if Morey wasn't there. Right. So speaking in terms of if he wasn't there, I think it would be a great fit, just in the sense of how they don't focus on the three ball too much. It's more of, you know, like mid-range in their system. They'll allow him to post up. It'll be able, like, easy to space the floor. They don't have anyone like him off the bench. and everyone always brings up defense. Just the way that they play defense, I feel like it'll just be perfect for him to go in there and not worry about it too much because they're a very good defensive team. So he'll have just more focus on offense, which will be perfect for him. And from my understanding, Doc respects him, so I feel like he would let him go free and just do as he pleases, and definitely close out games. You could sit Ben and have like Seth, Tobias Harris, Embiid, and Melo, and just close out games. It'll be perfect.
That's pretty crazy. The fact that like we're saying, yo, you'll be able to sit your second best player.
Sit the guy you're paying $175 million.
It's wild shit. Obviously, like you look at Tobias and how well. Anyway, I'm going too much in, but you look at Tobias and how well he fits in with Philly. Melo and Tobias very similar play styles. So yeah,
one of his idols too. So
yep. And so for everybody asking about Philly, we touched on it. It would make a lot of sense, but at the end of the day, Daryl Morey's there, so no shot. As president, he's president.
Yeah, Philly's services are no longer needed. So.
Philly's services are no longer needed for us. We have options now. All right, let's get to the main topic, the Golden State Warriors. Manny, we'll start with you on this one. How do you feel Melo fits? And again, I say this every single week for the past few weeks. We don't know what the team's going to look like in 2 weeks, in a month from now, but we're assuming that these teams keep their core together. So obviously Steph, Clay, Draymond, Wiseman, maybe they'll trade Wiseman, but whatever. Manny, how do you feel Melo would fit with Golden State?
Well, starting for me, I think, I always say it all depends on the pieces that are around in order for it to make sense. So for right now, as me, I don't think it makes sense due to the fact that we don't know what's going to be there next year. Do they keep Wiseman? Do they trade him? Do they look to move up in the draft? Do they look to bring in another star? What are the actual possibilities of getting Clay back? So I think that takes effect into everything. But overall, let's say like he does decide to go to Golden State. It could work. It could be good. Right now, he's at a point in his career where it's all of role. What is the role? And is the front office, the players, people around him going to be transparent with what's the role? I feel like in order for it to work, he need that Sean Livingston role that they had when Sean Livingston was with Golden State, how they could sometimes run offense through him, get him a couple touches, couple post-ups. He'll definitely space out the floor for Steph and Clay. They might ask him to play a little bit more of that point forward role, which we've seen him do some with Portland, and we actually like that. We know he can do it. But they would need a lot more players around. It couldn't just be like Steph, Clay, Dre, and Melo. Like it'll have to be another piece with them.
All right, Velo, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna go on a limb here, and I had kind of like back and forth with a couple of guys on Twitter from the perspective of what Melo's role is, and I want to say to me, Melo's always a starter, and he can always play 36 minutes a game and get 20 shots up and get 25 points. Like that's until he retires. But I think at this point in his career, like I don't think he even wants to do that, or like teams that he can be on, that's not the role that will be there for him. That will kind of go far in the playoffs. So when I said you threw us a curveball, I did not even think about Golden State, to be completely honest. For me, from this playing standpoint, I feel like he'll fit in. Who doesn't fit it with Draymond, Clay, and Steph? If Clay's like even 80-85% of himself, he's still going to be amazing. He's going to fit right in, give him a scoring punch. I don't think Oubre will be back because from what I'm seeing, Kerr said that he wants him as a reserve, as a sixth guy, and that's not Tsunami Papi's plans. So that's potentially like a role that Melo can fit in, like a legit, sixth guy coming off the bench, playing 25 minutes, who's getting shots up. I definitely think that every team is going to feel like Golden State can be that team that I think Jordan Clarkson's role with Utah Jazz is literally what Melo needs going forward. Just like when he is in the game, run offense through him. In like those 5, 6, 7 minute spurts, run it through him, give him the ball and move out of the way. But for me, the biggest question is not necessarily the players they're going to have, because you still have Steph, you still have Draymond, you still have Clay, so they'll be relevant. To me, the biggest question is Steve Kerr, right? I have no idea what Steve Kerr, the coach, thinks about Melo. I remember the game that Steve Kerr was an analyst when Melo dropped like 42 in Boston, and Steve Kerr was like losing his mind. And, he was like, so if there's some of that, I know that was like 10 years ago, but if there's like some of that respect where, Steve Kerr really fucks with Melo and he feels like, all right, he can give us something, really, really productive, and they're transparent with him and his role. That's why I say it's a curveball, because I can definitely see this being a success, because if we trust their leadership and their GMs and, the ownership, they're going to work to stay relevant. They're in the most expensive arena in the world. They just moved. They still have the best shooter in the world. So they want to stay relevant. And, what better way to stay relevant than to bring top 10 score, and help out your team.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up that Kerr thing. I swear to God, I was just watching that Celtics, the highlights versus the Celtics, and Steve Kerr said something like, it's unguardable, or he said something like that. And like,
He was making crazy noises. I'll just leave it at that.
It clicked in my mind where I was like, yo, he's the coach of the Warriors. I'm like, again, like you said, even if it is 10 years ago, the fact that at one point he respected Melo, like this is a dude, and obviously we know Melo, he's not going to put up 42 and 17 every night, but the fact that he had that, I feel like at one point is big. For me, I think it really is a great fit. You have Melo, and then you have shooters who can knock down shots. We're not talking about like, Calderon and Sasha Vujic like in New York, like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, two of the greatest shooters of all time. And if you give Melo the ball and like that's who's on the perimeter, like you could kind of say the same thing about Dame and CJ. They didn't really do that in this offense. Steve Kerr, that offense is all about passing the ball. Movement, that would obviously be very, very different for Melo from pretty much every other year in his career where they just give him the ball and like I'm sure he'd get his ISO opportunities. But as far as fit goes with this team on the court, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like you have those guys who can get Melo open looks, but at the same time they're not ball hogs. And Melo, I would like to think, would facilitate a little bit. And he'd get opportunities to play that point forward. Like Manny, I'm pretty sure Manny said that, or maybe I forgot who said it already. One of you guys said point forward. So I think it makes sense, man. And like selfishly, seeing Melo on the court with Steph Curry would just be like one of the fucking coolest things of all time. I love Steph Curry. Obviously, he's the greatest shooter of all time. So selfishly, I would also love to see that because
just give me the numbers. How many wins and losses this team has? Steph, 80% Clay, right? Steph, 80% Clay, Melo, Draymond, and Wiseman. How many wins that team has? And you put some role players, some decent players around it, but how many wins that team has in an 82-game season?
I don't see anything under 50. I don't see anything under 50. Like they were a borderline playoff team this year with Curry and Draymond, and like Curry missed a lot of time this year. First of all, so they were a borderline playoff team. I don't see anything under 50 if they're playing 82 next year. And this year they won 39. They won 39 and 33. 11 games.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say let's go 52.
How about you, Manny?
I mean, like we talked, it all depends on health. It all depends on health. I'm pretty sure that they're going to be very cautious with play after those two injuries. And then it just depends on the pieces. But I would give it anywhere in the window between 45 and 51, around that area.
I think that team wins easily 50 games. And I feel like, that's not even like a stretch. I think they're like a top 4 team in the West, because they will have some pieces off the bench and their young players had a lot of experience this year. Guys like Jordan, what's his name? Jordan Poole or something like that. Yeah. So they had a lot of guys that were like stepping up and I think actually have really, really good seasons next year as well. So.
And then also Curry, Clay, and Draymond have been playing together for how many years now? So it's not like there needs to be a lot of like, yo, we got a new team. Obviously, you added a few new pieces, but it will be interesting. Let's get into the opportunity to win. Velo, we'll start with you on this one. Obviously, this Golden State Warriors team was a dynasty for a few years, winning 3 out of 4, I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty because they won one, then they lost to the Cavs, and then KD came and they won 2 straight. So they won 3 out of 4. They were the super team. Everybody was scared of them. At this point, let's say again they keep this core together. They add Carmelo Anthony. They add a few pieces, minor pieces here or there. Velo, what do you think the opportunity to win is in Golden State?
The more I listen to your questions, the more I understand why Manny is saying it just depends on the pieces that are around it, because it really does. Like, I know Steph is going to do his thing. Like, even I'm not worried about Melo. He's going to do his thing. But there's a lot of question marks, right? Wiseman is coming back from an ACL tear. Is he going to get better, or, is he going to pay kind of like, gingerly? Clay is coming back with 2 major injuries, not playing for 2 years plus. I don't know, but I feel like Draymond is also like an X factor for somebody like that, specifically for Melo, that, he can guard and he can find and he can screen for him and kind of get him some open shots. And, maybe we get a meme where Draymond gets into Melo's face and starts, tapping him and stuff like KD,
yeah.
But to be completely honest, even if they do something, really good with like role players, and I cannot say that it's a championship team. I can definitely see this team, getting out of first round and maybe making noise in the second. But as Manny said, if they do make some pieces and move Wiseman and move the 7th pick and the 14th and some of the, future first rounds, and they get a couple of pieces, or they sign maybe like a DeMar DeRozan, type of players, somebody who can, you can really count on in the playoffs, then they can make some noise, right? If they're like legit 9-10 deep, and when I say 9-10 deep, I really mean like experienced veterans, like guys that we know that can perform on big stage, then I can see this team making noise just because you have Steph Curry, and Steph Curry can win you a couple of ball games any given night. So I'll kind of leave it at that. As Manny said, a lot of depends on the pieces they get, but I would say if they just stay like how they are and they just add Melo, I'd probably say, they get out of first round, and I kind of call ceiling probably right there.
All right.
West is so packed.
Manny?
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I agree with Velo. I think that it all depends on the pieces. As of right now, it's looking like a second round team. Obviously, there's still going to be a lot of guys that a lot of teams that still want to punch Golden State for those last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's like that's something that's never going to end with other teams. There's always going to be smoke. But it depends on the pieces. What kind of guys do you bring in? How do you shake up the offense? And just like exactly like what is the goal? Obviously, the goal is going to be to win championships, but how realistic is it going to be? Like how are you going to shop for the pieces? You know what I'm saying? It depends who they're going to put around. Like we've heard about them putting a package together for Ben, putting a package for Bill. So I think it all depends on that. If they could get like Bill or Ben Simmons, then yeah, I could say contend. But as of right now, second round max, like second round in 6 games, maybe they'll get bumped.
Yeah.
That starting lineup with Ben Simmons and Draymond Green, Clay, and Steph would be like 2 best shooters of all time and 2 worst shooters.
Yeah. And then you put Melo in there, and then you got another one of the best shooters of all time. You know what I'm thinking about as you guys are talking is we're talking about like which pieces will they get, and I feel like they will go hard this offseason because they know that they have the greatest shooter of all time, and he's not exiting his prime by any means. We just saw what he did last season, but he only has a few more seasons, and again, he's skilled, so he'll be able to play in this league until as long as he wants. But really, in his athletic prime, I think he's like what 28, 29. Steph now he's like somewhere there.
33.
Is he? He's 33.
Steph is like 33.
Steph Curry is 33 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the baby face, man.
What the fuck?
He's up there.
33.
He's 32, 33.
Jesus Christ. Damn. All right. That goes to my point even more that like how many years do they have of like having Steph Curry like with this Steph Curry fucking 33. That's wild. So I feel like they would go hard. And also I'm thinking and like it's so hard to say that a team with Steph Curry and like a competent roster around him and not like Jordan Poole and all these dudes who are starting aren't a championship contender. But for me, I'm looking at it in the lens of Carmelo. And if they're not like guaranteed to at least compete for a championship, then I don't think he should seriously consider them, because he can go to the Lakers and seriously compete. He can go to Brooklyn and seriously compete. So why would he go to Golden State if they aren't like a lot? Because like you guys have both been saying, there's a lot of question marks. And if everything goes well, like they have a chance to be one of the best teams in the West and like compete again. But there's just so many question marks. Clay, Wiseman, are they gonna? So there's so many question marks, and I just don't think it makes sense for Melo to go there if they promise him a role. And if all he cares about is a role, which it doesn't seem like that's the case, he can go to any other team. But I just think if they're not guaranteed to at least compete for a championship, albeit they're healthy, it doesn't make sense for Melo to go there. And that's the one thing holding me back from being like, yo, Golden State makes sense. And that's wild that I just said that out loud. Like, yo, the Warriors aren't guaranteed to compete for a championship. It still like feels weird saying that. But yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like they're not a guaranteed contender, and he should either go to a guaranteed contender or come back and put on the blue and orange. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, I think about this a lot. Like, what is the kind of like the best fit? Lakers, Brooklyn are the obvious ones, like the top two, because of his ties with the star players on both teams, right? And it gives them an opportunity to be like relevant. And those teams will make a deep run, right? Yeah. LeBron is going to be healthy. AD is going to be healthy. There's no way they're not going to be healthy. Like they're just going to be ready and hungry. And both of those teams will make some, adjustments, and they'll add some pieces, to their roster. But then you start thinking about like a team like Philly that makes all the sense, but then Daryl Morey is there. So like you kind of like write it off. Team like Golden State that you play with the best shooter of all time, but then there's a lot of questions. But to me, the biggest X factor for Melo is what happens to Chris Paul. Like if Chris Paul wins a ring and then decides to stay in Phoenix, like Melo is not going to go to Phoenix, in my opinion. Right. But I also feel like Chris Paul, if he wins a ring, might opt out of his last year and sign like a 3-year $60 or $65 million deal, or like 70, and go to the Knicks, or go to the Lakers or something like that. And I feel like that draw of them not really working, well, not even working out, not staying long together in Houston, maybe kind of having that almost last dance type of thing with LeBron, in La La Land, or them coming to the Knicks, and another thing.
The Chris Paul thing, I think, is interesting because for me, I think if Chris Paul wins a ring, there's no chance he leaves. Sorry, I get it. Like he wants to go get paid, and like there's rumors that he wants to get paid and like have one final contract. But this is the first time he's been in a finals. It's the first time, if he wins, that he won a ring, obviously. And I don't think that he would give all that up for like an extra. I mean, it's easy for me to say an extra $10 million a year. Like it's so easy for me to say that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I think either way, Chris Paul stays, and like I wanted Chris Paul and Melo to team up for years and years and years, and the fact that they didn't in New York, I'm still not over it. I still can't get over the fact that the Knicks didn't pull off that trade for Chris Paul, and it should have been Chris Paul, Melo, and Amari. Manny, any thoughts on CP?
My thoughts on CP, and I've been saying this for a while, and people think that I'm crazy, but I think win or lose, I don't know why. Something just tells me that he leaves. Like I don't think Phoenix is gonna pay him. He did what he had to do for the team. I mean, overall, I think the team is just great. We should have seen this coming from the bubble when they went 8-0. And like I'm not discrediting him, because of course he's like one of the greatest leaders we've seen. Like you see what he did last year with OKC, you see what he's doing this year with Phoenix. He's a great locker room guy. I know a lot of people in the league don't love him, but most of the time the people that are around him, like the young guys, they usually have very high praise for him. But if they win, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just a chance to repeat. I don't think two would change anything from his career than having one. Once you have one,
Fair.
you're solidified. That's it.
Fair.
But then I also believe that you have some players, like even if they don't win, like Melo, like if he never wins a ring, I don't think it ever affects his career. You know what I'm saying?
Not to
So
us. To a lot of people, it
yeah,
does. It's fucking annoying, but
yeah. I feel like to us as real fans, it don't affect that. At the end of the day, it's first ballot Hall of Famer. But I would love to see them join forces. If New York is his destination, you see, this is what I'm pushing for.
fucking love that.
Then, hey, we could have a parade just off that.
Thousand
but
percent.
but yeah, I think let's just see what happens. The LA fit, like the only way that I would want him in LA, it's if he goes with CP. If CP
Yeah.
doesn't go, then he's. I know some people say, yeah, he's going to contend, but I feel like as much as they'll contend is as much bullshit as they'll go through. Just the way the media is, the way that they surround LeBron. You know how it is when they lose, it's never his fault. When they win, it's only him.
Always.
Um, if that's gonna be the case, and you know, like you see what he just fought back from Houston to get back in the league, so I feel like
Yeah.
it'll just it's like starting all over if we go to LA. So
Yeah.
ideally, I would want him to if he could get back to the Knicks with CP, then hell yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like do it, get a trade for Bill and those three guys, and just keep the pieces that they got. Um, hell yeah. If you can't get CP, because I don't think that Melo would follow him to Phoenix, then by all means go to Brooklyn, dug it out in Brooklyn. Even if you do 1 year, get the chip, and then come back to New York. But I feel like that's the
You
ultimate
think the
goal.
fans would welcome
Is
him at MSG if he did that, Manny?
um, I me personally, I feel like you have no choice but to. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he ever wanted to leave us because that wasn't the case. He was forced out. Um, the team as a whole failed him. Like just the pieces that they
Yeah,
gave
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Like you don't treat someone that wants to be part of this franchise and just carrying them on their back on a nightly basis has nothing bad to say to the media. 100 different coaches, 100 different teammates, and just thugging it out
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, we gonna get better. We here to fight. Like this is where I want to be. So due to the fact that we didn't give him what he needed, he should be supported wherever he goes if he decides to come back to MSG. That's just
I've
me
seen
though.
I've seen that in a few comments. We all know he's I don't want to say dying to live in New York, but he would love to live in New York. Another thing we talk about when we preview these teams is like he would love to be in Brooklyn or play for the Knicks because he would be living in New York. So San Fran, let's go back to this Warriors thing. This could be like pretty quick. Give us like 60 seconds each. Velo, we'll start with you on this one. What do you think Melo would feel like? How do you think Melo would feel about living in San Fran?
I think he would love it, man. It's kind of like Silicon Valley. He has a lot of investments, in kind of like technological products. I think like headphones and like
Yep.
things of that nature. I think he's like really interested in that. And sounds like a good place to drink some wine, man. That's all I'm gonna say. I know it's hella expensive, but like somebody like Melo who made like $250 million just of contracts, so
Right.
he doesn't need to worry about that. But yeah, I mean, what's not to like? Sunshine. Silicon Valley, making all these contacts, for like future investments, which I think Katie did as well. You can be extremely rich, but you can always invest smartly and kind of like bring your net worth to be even more impressive and whatnot. And we know that Melo is a philanthropist, a businessman.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean it's kind of like fits his personality and it fits his lifestyle, especially at kind of like this time and age where he's like obviously really really mature and kind of like smart with a lot of things. We just saw him win, one of the most impressive awards with everything that has been going on over the last couple of years here. So I think his personality fits perfectly with that core there, and then obviously with the Silicon Valley vibe as well. I think he will thrive there.
Makes sense. Manny?
For me, San Fran, I'm gonna keep it 100. It's a no go, no go, no
Why?
way. um, just off the simple fact that, um, not to keep bringing up New York, but I feel like he's gonna want to be somewhere close to home, just off the fact that like Ty is gonna be going to high school, and it's like a big step in his career. Although it's gonna be the first year of high school, but I feel like that's a very important role. Um, we know how Melo is. Like he's always supporting there at the games, and just what he does for that Black Ops team that they have in general, the ties that he has to those kids, um, as well as like if we talking about from a business standpoint, I don't think it makes complete sense with the businesses that he's doing. Um, in terms of the businesses that he's doing, New York and LA fit the most. He's starting the media company and stuff like that with Creative Seven. So I feel like LA, New York would be more of a destination or somewhere close to like New York, just to so he could focus on business and focus on Kai and just
Yeah.
be close to like where his heart really is. So I say
Fair.
San Fran, it's a no go. I can't see him out there.
Fair. I think Melo loves the big cities. I think we all know that, New York, LA, and shit like that. And San Fran, it's a bigger city in America. It's one of the bigger cities, and I think it makes sense in terms of Sunshine being in Cali. Obviously, to Manny's point, like it being so far away from New York, it's not like he could just drive a few hours to go see his son's basketball game or take a quick plane or whatever. So that's the one thing that kind of holds it back. And I feel like he really values this his son and like we talked about for the past few weeks. So just the fact that it's on the other side of the country would hold him back. But at the same time, if there was a place on the other side of the country outside of LA, I think San Fran does make a lot of sense. Wine, a lot of smart people over there with investments. I don't know if Melo's still doing his investment firm. It was M7 Investments or something like that he started with Stewart something. But anyway, that's my thoughts. I think it makes sense and it doesn't. I'm going to put it like this. I think there are other cities that fit him better and have a similar, if not a better, opportunity to win than Golden State. So, like, I just keep comparing it to other cities. All right, let's try to cap this rest of the podcast within 10 minutes because I know we have some tight schedules. So let's get one move from each of you as to what it would take for the Warriors to make sense for Melo. Like, is it trade for Ben Simmons, sign Bradley Beal, promise him this role, however you want to take it? We'll start with Manny on this.
So definitely, like I said before, it'll all depend on the pieces. I think that's the number one thing is what pieces are we gonna get to contend for a championship, and also what role will he have?
You picked the piece, so you picked the piece. So what piece do you need to see for you to be like, all right, that makes sense for Melo to go there?
For me, it would just be get another wing player and get a solid big. So I think I would trade for Bill because you could put him or Clay at the 3. Hopefully, he plays healthy, and then just see what kind of big you could get. If you could just get a defensive-minded big with good hands that could finish at the rim, because that's all they ever really needed from bigs. They never needed someone who was flashy or like a go-to guy. It's just like, hey, listen, when you pass you the ball, you just need to catch it, throw it down, grab boards. Then that's fine, and then they could just go into that fast-paced offense that they like to run into, and the spacing on the floor would be amazing. And then I just want to put this out there for every team, whoever's looking, stop with the veteran minimums. You got guys that are way worse, making much more money. Stop with the veteran minimums. Give him what he's worth.
For all the GMs listening, right? We'll give Velo. You good, Velo? Or you want me to hop in?
My dog is going crazy, my man. Sorry.
You got it, bro.
So I'm going to say something that probably not a lot of people is going to agree with, but similar to PG, and I know he didn't have like a full bounce back season, but I think he had a really good season, even in the playoffs. He underachieved with some missed free throws and what, but overall he played really, really well.
Yep.
I trade Wiggins and a pick,
Oh,
and
shit.
I get number 6, and I get number 6 from Dallas. So I get the tall Latvian in there as a stretch 5 with Draymond, protect the rim. Hopefully he has a lot to prove. I get him in there, in that culture with those guys. And then I throw everything I have, like everything rest that I have, 7, 14, Wiseman, whatever else Wizards want, and I get Bradley Beal. And you get that roster, and you get Curry, Beal, Clay, Draymond, Porzingis, number 6 from Dallas. And that team, to me, all of a sudden is, a top 2, top 3 team. Bench is probably not as deep. I get it. But when you get into the playoffs, when it really matters, you still are playing only 6, 7 guys anyways. So if you have some money left and you can get some pieces back, like some 3-and-D guys, sign some veteran guys, some 3-and-D. But I feel like if they do that, they're just going to be, all of a sudden they become a contender.
You're going back to the it's almost like the Yankees were the evil empire. You're going back to the Golden State of like the evil empire where they got KD and all that shit. For me, man, like I thought about this a little before we started recording. Like, what would the Warriors need to do for it to make sense? The number one thing I always go to first off is role. I think that they need to tell Melo, yo, you're going to be the Jordan Clarkson in Utah. You're going to be this. And then also, I feel like they need another playmaker / defensive wing and things like that. Wiggins, he's not really a playmaker. Draymond is a good passer. Curry obviously is a playmaker, but Clay, in terms of playmaking and getting open shots and things like that, he's not it. He's a spot-up shooter and an amazing defender. We know who Clay is. Melo, we know what he does. I'm not going to preach to the choir here, but I think they need another playmaker on that team to just get some pressure off Curry to do fucking everything. Because when they don't run plays perfectly and Draymond doesn't get somebody a good look, it's like it's just Curry doing everything on his fucking own like we saw this year. So I think they need another playmaker. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of answering and then also not answering because I don't think unless they pull some crazy shit out like Velo just said where they get Bradley Beal and, another all-star caliber player, it's just really tough for me to see Melo in Golden State at this point. So
the more we talked, the more it didn't make sense as we kind of went
I know
down this rabbit hole.
I just go back to like the main point of this whole podcast. If you just tuned in the 37th minute and you're like, all right, like what do I need to know? It's for me, it's that they aren't a guaranteed contender. And for Melo to go to a non-guaranteed contender, why not go to a team closer to home that appreciates him in the middle of one of the biggest cities in the world? And I'm not saying that the Knicks aren't a contender. Like they could very well be if they make a few pieces, but that's my thoughts.
Yeah, Knicks are on the rise. Knicks are definitely making some moves. I'm still, hopeful every night that Dame and Melo come to New York and they pull it off. And I kind of have a couple of different trades, on my mind. And I saw a couple on timeline with what's his name, Tommy Bear or something like that.
Yeah,
one of the guys. He had a really good one where he. Knicks got Iguodala. They got Melo. They got a couple of DeRozan. I think DeRozan is really realistic. Somebody who comes in and really gives Tibbs what he's looking for. And we know Tibbs fucks with Melo too. He tried to get him, back in the day. And so I know he's a big fan of that. So hopefully a reunion on the Knicks. That's kind of like a dream scenario for all of us, right? That Knicks make some amazing moves and they bring Melo back home. And Knicks are relevant, making deep playoff runs, competing for a title. And can you imagine that? Melo winning a ring?
I'm trying to save all my Knicks talk and excitement for the Knicks episode. That's why I'm not really talking that much, but that'll be something else. So, Manny, last thought on Warriors, the possibility. Just like summarize what you've been thinking about this.
Well, I've been thinking about it since from the moment you told me, um, we're not doing Philly, we're gonna do Golden State. It's just like it doesn't work. Like to me, it doesn't
Neither.
work. I feel like um, just that window that they had of contention. I don't want to say it's fully shut, but it's not as open as it used to be.
But
So it doesn't make sense. If you're not gonna go to a contender like that doesn't have all the pieces, why not come home? Like why not come back to
yeah,
New York? Not saying that New York is not gonna be a contender, but at the moment we just gotta see the pieces that they move. Um,
yep.
but one thing that I do just want to throw out there, and obviously you could talk about this when you get to this team. Um, but I feel like this is a real sleeper. I feel like next year this is a team that's gonna go all out to get some pieces, and this is like we're not talking New York, we're not talking Brooklyn, we're not talking
Go.
LA. I feel like people should pay attention to Miami. If
Heard that.
they can land CP, Melo, Jimmy, you get Team Jordan up in there. I don't know, man. Like that's something
I've
that
heard
I've been
Miami
thinking
too.
about. That
Stop it, Manny. You're making too much sense.
Miami
For
too.
real,
I've heard.
I
I
think you're
know.
right. I think that is a sleeper team. Like now, when you said that, I completely forgot because I was like in my back of my head, like just going over teams. I think you're 100% right. I think Miami is gonna make something big as like Pat Riley's final run. And I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense. Off the fact that it'll be a perfect fit due to the style of play. Um, Defensively, they could cover up whatever flaws he has. Even though he does attempt to play defense, and when he does it, it's pretty good. You just gotta have him committed to actually wanting to play defense. I feel like the way that team plays, they will do that. They definitely have the money to get CP. We know that is what CP is looking for this offseason is the money. Coming off the finals, I know Pat's gonna want to make some moves due to the fact that they went to the finals last year, got swept this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you could play with your best friend. It's not too far from home. You're gonna be 2 hours away from home, 2.5 hours. So you can always be back and forth. So it makes a lot of sense. And if you could have CP, Jimmy, Melo, and Bam, why not go for it? Why not? So to me,
Fair.
that's a sleeper team. Obviously, you guys could see how you feel once you get to an episode that is talking about Miami. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Like if it's not New York, LA, for me, Miami's the destination. If you could get CP, Jimmy.
Nah, I'm
Then
good with that.
we should have talked Miami for 45 minutes instead
You
of
should
Golden
have
State.
fucking done that. Are you free for the next 45 minutes, Velo? I know you needed a bounce. If you guys want to rerun this, man, you want to order another meal or some shit, and we'll chill here for a little bit.
Nah, I can't do the 45 again
Nah,
for
fuck
Miami. If I could, I would, but you can always bring me back to that episode.
Oh,
I'll make the time.
Literally any other day, Steve. Literally any other day, I'll make time. But like,
I appreciate you both.
I got 6 minutes.
All right, 6 minutes. We reached the end of the podcast. By the way, somebody commented on YouTube saying that I always end the outros like this. Shout out to all the people watching on YouTube. I feel like we've been getting way more views on YouTube than we normally do, and obviously those mean the most because those are people watching more than the minute that we put out on IG or Twitter. So shout out to all the YouTube subscribers and watchers. Anyway, we've reached the end of this podcast. At the end of every podcast, we allow our guests to control a narrative. Doesn't have to be Melo related. Doesn't have to be basketball related. Doesn't have to be sports related. So let's try to get out here in 5 minutes, 60 seconds each. We could start with Velo. I'm pretty sure Manny started last. So Velo, what narrative you want to control?
I'll just go ahead and try to control the narrative. Like, just give a shout out to all the real friends out there. And by that I mean, when you have a booger in your nose or something in your teeth, they tell you right away. They don't let you act a fool. When you get drunk, they get your ass home. There's not a lot of people like that, man. We live in this crazy times with like social media and social warriors, keyboard warriors, where people are so brave when they're faceless. So shout out to all the real friends out there. Not like LeBron. And again, I hate shitting on LeBron because he's doing so many great things, but everything Melo and LeBron related is like a grain of salt. So Just want to give a shout out to Wheel friends out there. Stay true to it, and I'm just gonna keep it short. Leave it at that.
I see how you tied that to LeBron. That was fucking amazing, Velo. You try being like, yo, all my friends, and then you're like, but fucking LeBron, don't. That was good. That was a nice one. Manny, you got a narrative to control? Like 60 seconds?
For me, the narrative to control, I mean, it's tough to not focus on Melo when we're doing this.
Of course.
But one thing that I just want to control is let's just appreciate greatness. Obviously, this era of basketball that we truly enjoy, that we love, is coming to an end. So next season, I don't really want to see no hating, not too much judgment of like certain players like Melo, like CP. We talk about like the windows closing on them and age and stuff like that. Let's just appreciate the little bit of time that we have left from those guys, and that's pretty much it. And I mean, obviously, wherever there's Melo slander, I will be there. I'll find a way to get there. But yeah, man, that's all I really gotta say. Let's just appreciate greatness and like all around the league, beyond Melo, and free the guys that should be in the league still playing. You see some guys that don't belong in the league. So my narrative will be, free Dion Waiters, my boy Philly Cheese. Got a lot of love for that guy. He's nice. Free Boogie. Boogie's on the team, but I feel like he need a chance to really show himself that he could still, get down, get gritty. And the last one, I said this last year, although it happened, but I didn't really like the scenario. But always gonna be our guy, Free Swish.
Oh.
Get JR back on the team, man. Get JR back on the team.
Yep. Free JR, man. Yo, Velo, Manny, really do appreciate you both for taking time out continually to come on and just talk bullshit. At the end of the day, this is all bullshit for 46 minutes. Just the dude that we are all very passionate about.
Yeah, as long as we all agree that Maria Taylor is way hotter than Rachel Nichols.
You could have controlled that narrative, Velo. Yeah, we could have.
My wife didn't hear me. She's on the balcony.
But for real, appreciate you both, and for the big parts of this movement that you both have been for a minute. So thank you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed your time, and I hope you both have a great rest of your night. And also shout out to everyone who watched or listened.
Don't be a stranger, Steve. Great talking to you, Manny.
Of course, bro. Stay mellow.
Likewise, guys. Peace.